Yeah. All right. Well, let's dive into it because we've got a lot of material. Normally, what I do with a 2-hour session is I bring enough material for about 7 hours. How do you feel about that? Okay. So I want you to feel almost like a water hose effect. I also want you to know it's going to be fast moving. I'm from DC and I speak fast. Okay. You can pause me at any time. Okay. Come back and ask for things. We're going to show you what works. Now, I will say this. I'm not your broker. I'm not your attorney. I'm not your team lead. I'm going to give you ideas of what you can do that may or may not be legal in your market. Okay. But what I want to do is stretch your mind because there's a lot of things that people thought were illegal that when they talked with their broker and their attorney, they found out, hey, I can do that in my market. Okay. So I want you to think about that. We're going to cover a lot of topics as you already saw. So be ready for that. Beyond that, who am I? What does that look like? Maybe. Or not. Is it? So this isn't recognizing anymore. Different screen on the Zoom? So fortunately, this is not a tech class because this would feel really awkward right now. So let me just explain who I am and kind of the credence to what it looks like and how we do our business. My mother started our business years ago in the 80s. Okay. I got my license when I was 18, started selling, didn't know what the heck I was doing, right? Going back and forth from college. And then I took over the family business in the late 2000s. Well, sorry, late 2008 and 9. Okay. Just to let you know. Yeah, right. Who was in the market, by the way, at that time? Yeah, you know some of the pains of that market. In one of our presentations, we actually showed 2008 and 2021 and use market reports and things like that to show what's the difference. Now, let me ask you this: for if a client asks you this week, what would you say is the difference between 2008 and 2021? What's the main difference for those that experienced it? The different like mortgages and options that you have? In case you couldn't hear that on Zoom, it went, which I agree with. And they changed it, right? And became very vanilla. One of the things they changed the most, which is equity line access. And what from 2010 on, what did they change with that? What's the most that you can take out of your home today? Anybody know? Between 75 to 85%, depending on the bank you talk to. Before, in 2005, 6, 7, what could you do? 100%, which is crazy, right? Today you think, oh, well, that would never happen. Well, no, that was happening, right? But what's the other thing as far as the composition of the buyers that's different today? What's that? Oh, sure, there's telecommuting. But in 2003, 4, 5, what was everybody doing? Everybody was, quote unquote, in real estate based off of speculation. So who was the buyer? What was the composition of that buyer? It wasn't the primary homeowner. Who was it? It was the investors. It was everyone thinking they were an investor, everyone putting down money on these new home builds, right? And that's part of what contributed to that market being different than today. Today, it's primary homeowners, right? Now certainly they're paying a big premium, aren't they? Okay. But what's that powered from? What's the biggest thing that changed during COVID? Where did rates go? They dropped down to like 2.5. Some people got down to 2, which of course springboarded the market. So when you're talking with clients, make sure that you have a conversation of the fact that interest rates and sales prices are an inverse relationship, right? The lower the interest rate, the higher the sales price can either go or maintain. So it is a little counterintuitive when you look at that and say, during COVID, how in the world have prices continued to soar, right? Obviously, the limited inventory, you already knew that before you came in today. The interest rates is the biggest driver. So then when people say, well, when's the market going to change? Well, when rates jump through. When do rates rise? Rates rise with the economy. When the economy is horrible, guess what they can't do? They can't raise the rates. So a good thing is when our economy gets better is also a bad thing for our industry because why? What also rises? The interest rates. Okay. So just keep that in your mind as we're thinking through it. Let's see if the clicker works now. No. How about on the laptop? Well, I need to use that. There you have it. Okay, I even brought my fancy clicker. I was so excited, had to dust it off because I've been Zoom powered for so long teaching that way. Yeah, it is annoying. However, I got to teach in Boxers for the last couple months, so I've enjoyed that part of it. Yeah, and I do have pants. I do have pants on for those on Zoom. So yeah, if we can go to the next one. So our market's a little bit different. We're in the DMV. What's weird about DC, you may not know, is DC, Maryland, and Virginia all require different what? Licenses, right? To operate in all three. And you could drive 30 minutes and be in all three. That's kind of the craziness of the DC market. You can see the agent zones. As we've expanded within our company, we actually allow our agents to choose different zones that they want to specialize and where they live as well. And I bring this up. This is not going to be a conversation really about your mission or vision statements, but I would recommend that over the next 7 days, you review what that is. What's the mission statement that's forward facing that you're telling your clients, that they see, that they know if you're a team, that you expand on? Ours is really simple. It's right there on the screen. Can anybody read that? Is that big enough to read? Yeah, good. Wonderful team effort, ladies. Wonderful team effort to invest in people's lives as they invest in real estate. So I'm in real estate because it makes a lot of money. I have no problem saying that. I'm in real estate because we can impact the local community through charity, right? And that's part of our vision statement. But who do I want to help? Who do I want to help become wealthy? My clients. So as they invest in real estate, we're investing in them. Would we buy or sell the same home? You know, it's kind of interesting right now. Don't raise your hands on this, but here's an interesting thing to think before we talk about listings. Let's say you're working with 2 buyers and you have 2 listings going on the market. And they're not on the market yet, but they're a perfect fit for your 2 clients. Would you put it on the market or would you sell it to them off market? Okay. Don't raise your hands on that. I want you to think about it for a second. Now, as I've been speaking around the country, I get different answers and everywhere I go, even in the same room, right? Take away dual agency, designate, take away that for a second. If you had a buyer and you compare it with a house, what would you do? Let me tell you a quick story before you answer that. So we had a property. It was actually referred by an agent in North Carolina. It was in Fairfax, Virginia. We're going to list it at 700. I talked to the seller ahead of time and I said, how much would you take? How much would you be excited with? He's like, man, if I could get 725, I'd be thrilled. Okay. We had a buyer, quote unquote, pocket buyer who was willing to pay him 760. 60,000 over list. Would that be considered a big win for the seller? And if the seller doesn't know the general market, what would they say? Oh my gosh, I'm thrilled, sell for 760. I felt like in today's market, it's better service to the seller to do what? To go on the open market, to expose it to every single agent that's out there, which we did. Guess what the final sales price was? What was it? 850. Now you make me feel bad. Not 850, but 825. So you had a seller who was compelled and thrilled to sell it for 760. You expose it to the open market, and now it sells for 825. So what we're actively telling our sellers right now is, rather than selling it off market, right now on the market, there is no ceiling to the price. Okay, there is no ceiling. So, and that's a struggle too, right? When a seller says, well, how much is my home worth? Is it worth $1 million? Is it worth 1.1? Right? And we'll get into that a little bit because that's going to come down to converting and what that looks like. So let's jump in. We talked about this already. We're going to focus on kind of in this order, okay, as far as what we're going to focus on and what does it look like, because I know a lot of people that are not winning right now, okay? Although you guys seem pretty good, like 4 or less, 5, one said 7. In DC, it's been so competitive that it is typical that someone's writing 10 plus offers. Thankfully, not on our team, but it's typical within the industry, okay? One of the questions, you may want to write this down, as a listing agent, I ask every time, bless you, how many offers has your buyer lost? And we put this into our spreadsheet. How many offers has your buyer lost? Now, why am I asking that question? What's the point of me asking that question? I'm the listing agent. I don't represent the buyer. Yes. And motivation for what? The buyer that's lost 4 or 5 is not going to what? Get cold feet and walk away. The buyer, it's his first offer or second or third offer, they may get cold feet and think, oh my gosh, I'm overpaying. But if they have that buyer fatigue and feel beat down by the market, and they've already lost 4, they're going to stay committed. And guess who else is going to stay committed? Their agent, because their agent doesn't want to show them anymore, right? So let's jump forward to winning now. And I'm going to walk you through a couple things. So I'm going to tell you quick stories as we go through this. If you have questions about it, let me know. And each of these bullet points is going to give you a new way to look at making offers for your buyers. Okay. I'm assuming that, right? Was the winning now that you guys, because that's what Bridget and I talked about. Winning now was how to win for your buyers, right? Is that what we wanted? Okay. We're getting some affirmative heads and some wondering.
We're likely, generally speaking, we're likely, if we do have the listing, we're waiting for the seller. It's really more about how we can win for our buyers.
Yeah. Yeah.
The sellers are winning.
Correct. And we'll come back to winning that listing, perhaps if we have time, because you might be generating the listing and going on that listing appointment where the seller thinks they don't need you and competing with 5 other agents and you walking home without what? Without that listing, right? Would you agree that you've already made your commission once you sign that listing agreement in today's market, right? Okay. Offer off market. Let me give you a key strategy to this. I love anytime a property goes off market. So much so, for every buyer that's searching right now, we'll search off market for the last 30 days. Here's why. Every seller, would you agree, has their own reasons they go off market? Maybe it was turned down by the market. Maybe they have to redo paint or do flooring. We had an example recently where we actually had an engineer who refused to compete, right? You guys have experienced that? Oh, there's 3 other offers. I don't want to do it. I just want to look at more homes. That's not what he said, but that's what it is, right? We found a property he liked and went off the market. Reached out to find out the story. Well, unfortunately, they had a special needs child and there were too many showings happening that first weekend and it just didn't work out. Their plan was to go on the market 2 weeks from then. So we found out ahead of time, well, would you take an offer rather than subject the same thing? Well, yeah, the seller would be. We found out the terms. He was able to keep in his normal contingencies, not compete with another offer, and buy it for $20,000 less than he thought he'd have to go. So always search off-market properties because your buyers can't, right? I don't know, in your MLS feed, can the buyers from your hot feed, could they search off-market? Okay. So when you're talking with a new buyer and you're talking about how to find other properties, it's fun to be able to go back to them and say, you know what? Sometimes the off-market properties are the ones that just went temp off. And I'm going to search for those for you every week and every month to find something like that where you may not have to compete. You may be able to get it for less than what it would be on the market. So offer during coming soon. Have any of you done this? Okay, good. And it worked out well? Okay. Now, not every agent plays the same, right? But they might say, we're going live on Friday. We're reviewing offers on Tuesday. Do they do that in this market? Okay. Well, I love seeing that because I'll always make the call and say, hey, great. I know you're going live on Friday. I know you're waiting till XYZ. Will your seller take an offer before it hits the market? Okay. I would say that when it first started happening, we were at about 40% success rate on that. Now I would say it's probably about 20% success rate, but hey, 2 out of 10 still really works for you, right? So try to offer during the coming soon status, the way we protect our clients, because you can't go and see, agreed? You can't go and see the property, neither can your client during coming soon. However, what we do is we do a home inspection void only for 1 day. Home inspection void only 1 day. What I realized was most people write it 7 days, 5 days. By writing it 1 day, I've had home inspection void only accepted even in competitive bidding more than anything else. Now, what do you have to do for that? You need to make sure you have at least 3 or 4 home inspectors potentially, right? That your clients choose, not that you do. Talk with your broker and attorney about that, right? So let me preface this. Don't ever, ever schedule an inspection yourself. You guys know that rule, right? So don't say, oh, well, Johnny can do it and Johnny can do it Tuesday at 2. I'll go ahead and book it. Okay. If you don't know why that's such a tragedy for you in the future, talk to your broker about that. Okay. Offer prior to deadline, what we just mentioned. So even I've had a lot of properties, they go live on Friday and we represent the buyer. We'll put in an offer on, say, Saturday or Sunday, as long as what? As long as we know the seller will take it. So we had one recently where it was on at 450. They said, well, if we got an offer at 500,000, the seller would take it. Great. Then it's a simple conversation with your buyer. Are you willing to go to 500, or do you think you get it for less later? The imposed deadline, this works when the market's not as hot. Would you agree? I guess my cup is leaking. This works when it's not, right. Do you see it? Or I am really sweating. No, it's coffee. So an imposed deadline. How many of you as a listing agent have, and I still get it in a hot market, have gotten one where they say, hey, I'll give you, by the way, what's an average sales price I should use today? What's an average sales price for the audience? 500? Okay. So in the example where they're on at 500, I offer you 525, but I say, I need an answer by tomorrow at 2 p.m. Have you gotten any of those as a listing agent or tried any? Who's tried it as a buyer agent? Has it worked? Hit and miss. Oh, yeah. Oh. Yeah. Well, and then sometimes you have to advise your buyer that what? It's not worth it. Like they're on a 500, they want 700. Let's just wait and see what happens, right? That's a good point. And then this is interesting. So I have a buyer that's approved for 500. They like 2 houses. Has that ever happened to you? They like 2 different houses. Can you write on both houses at the same time? Legally. I love some are saying yes, some are saying no. Wait, what was it? Oh, legally yes, ethically no. Okay, person who said no, tell me why you can't. Cannot. Well, and in theory, if it's just a standard contract you've written on both homes, if that buyer, because remember, the seller could just ratify it, right? Not make a change. So that's only ethical and legal if what? If they can afford $1 million worth of property, right? If you can click forward. Read this.
Use that as an example yesterday. We're not seeing that here so much, but it was an agent from across the bridge that actually did that. And they so much as said, it's going rampant in that market. Not down, I haven't seen it here, but they said, oh yeah, that's commonplace up here in Anne Arundel County. I'm like, wow.
Yeah. I'm going to give you verbiage where it's legal and ethical, and yes, talk to your broker and everybody else, okay? This allows any buyer to write on 3 or 4 homes at the same time, even if they're only approved for 500,000, okay? So let me read it to you. Seller is notified that purchaser is submitting more than one offer. Even, by the way, we're doing this even in this hot market, okay? This offer is not considered ratified until the purchaser in writing accepts the seller's terms and confirms it is ratified. That's what protects you, because the seller can't ratify. Remember how I said, well, wait a second, if the seller ratifies both, you better have been approved for $1 million worth, okay? This acceptance will be done within 24 hours of written correspondence from the seller. Okay. Who has done something like this? Something similar? Okay, how did it work for you? Oh, you just did it last night. Fantastic. So not stole, she gave it to me. This is verbiage from an agent that's been doing it for 40 plus years out in Arizona. And the wonderful thing about this is it is legal, it is ethical. In a worst case scenario, that listing agent calls me and says, what? James, what the heck is this? Which also allows me to find out what are we up against? What can we do? Even during this hot market, we've had multiple ratifications using this language, and the buyer feeling the freedom to write on multiple homes. So if you haven't used something similar to this, I highly recommend that you do it once you've talked to your broker and your attorney and all of that. So let me pause on that because I know we have some brokers here. Any issues you have with this? Pretty sweet. Yeah.
That would satisfy what I was saying. In the scenario that I shared with you,
yeah,
this language did make sense.
Yeah. Good question. And I'll repeat some of the questions for the Zoom audience. So the question was, does this hurt your buyer by showing they're not as serious? I will tell you that no, it hasn't. as long as you articulate it well to the other agent and you even preface it in your own letter to the agent, right? Hey, as long as it's true, of course. Hey, your property is their favorite. However, they're concerned that they'll lose on this and another one. As soon as your seller sends it back in writing, we'll cancel the other offer. We'll withdraw it. So what's nice about this is it almost gives a deadline to the seller, a kind deadline. And I'll tell you this, because markets always switch. When you go to a buyer's market, I love using this language. Why? Because I can write on 3 properties at the same time. We call it aggressive to reserve and aggressive for price. So aggressive to reserve is when your buyer walks through and goes, oh my gosh, I got to have it. This is the perfect house. However, that doesn't happen every time, does it? Sometimes you walk in and the buyer's like, you know what? Yeah, this is okay. If I could get it for $450, or if I could get it for $4.25, then I'd move forward. That's aggressive for price. So when they're aggressive for price, we'll actually write on multiple houses as long as they're happy with all of them. Okay. So I want you thinking through just beyond this market of when it's a buyer's market, what can I leverage that I'm doing right now on its end? How can I flip that? Right? Okay. All right. So, and I know contracts change based on areas. I will tell you that I was talking to Frank earlier. I think our contract's different. So in DC, Maryland, and Virginia, I can show an earnest money. I won't use that example. I can show a down payment. So anybody ever work with a veteran, VA loans? So VA loans are brutal. Let's do this. Let's pretend you're the seller. You're selling a $500,000 home. You get 4 offers. First one's all cash. The next one's 20% down. Next one's 5% down. Last one's 0 money down. Which one are you going to take? Cash. Next. 20% down, right? It's going to march its way down. Same with your sellers. So here's your challenge. If you're representing that 0 down VA buyer, you better have a close connection with the Almighty, right? You better be praying a lot for that. In our local market, with our contract, a buyer can change their financing at any time as long as they settle on time. There's no adverse effect to the seller, right? Can you notice that's the language in our contract? So we can actually show, I'll give you an example. We had a $650,000 buyer, and he showed $270,000 down as a down payment. Showed up to settlement with 0 money down. Completely legal and completely ethical based on how our contract's written. Because we can change our financing at any time. Now, we can't jump from a VA to conventional, but we can show more money down and come with less. The only time it negatively impacts our buyer is if there was a rent back. You guys do rent backs here? So the seller stays in the property. Well, nowadays, a lot of times it's like, okay, take my firstborn, take everything, and you can stay for free, right? You've seen that. But let's assume they had to pay.
Stop jumping around the room acting crazy when you.
Why would this they had to pay? Anyone know why would it negatively impact your buyer if they had to pay? So if the seller has to do the PITI, right, the full monthly payment and HOA if you have it here, for the rent back, why would that number change? Remember, so keep in mind, they showed $270,000 down. They showed up to settlement with 0 money down. Therefore, their monthly payment was less or more for the rent back. There's more, right? Because they're not putting down $200,000, right? So in that situation, we preface to our buyers, hey, if they're going to make your payment, they only have to make your payment of what it would have been if you had put down the 270. They don't have to make your full payment with 0 money down. Mm-hmm. Without the seller signing off on it. Correct. So in the DC market, I can show $200,000 down and show up with 0 money down on a VA loan. Okay. Now, let me pause on that because I don't want to go too deep in case you can't do it here. Does your terminology within your financing addendums allow for that? It does. Oh, good. Okay, wonderful. Well, then the other thing, earnest money. If the home is $500,000, how much are you recommending they do for earnest money? How much are you recommending? Yeah, if the home is, well, that's a really big earnest money, by the way. Yes. 25,000. So here's what I like. So I'm going to show you some trigger points that don't cost them any money. So the first trigger point that costs your buyer 0 money is the earnest money deposit. So instead of 1 or 2%, which is 5 to 10,000, even beyond 25, we have a lot of our clients that are doing between 80 to 100,000 in earnest money. Because what does that automatically show to the seller? Well, they got the cash on hand. And that doesn't cost your buyer anything extra, and it's a feel good. Remember, buyers buy based on emotion. Guess what? Sellers sell based on emotion. So the emotion of them seeing all that cash and that it will be deposited right away is a big deal. Now, I know in North Carolina, this is interesting. In North Carolina, they have something similar to earnest money that goes directly to the seller. Okay. Now, be cautious with that. But what I can tell you is if you want to strengthen your offer even more, as long as your buyer loves the house and they're never backing out, what else could you do with that earnest money? Broker and attorney involved as well. What else could you do with it? What's that? Give it directly to the seller. Give it directly to the seller with verbiage in the contract that what? That'll be credited to your buyer at closing. Now you've gone from an earnest money to a true statement to where that seller will probably take your offer over someone else's. Okay. Anybody else getting some heartburn with those kind of options? Right. Okay. Down payment. Okay. Down payment. We talked about that, being able to show. Here's how you do it. We call it fishing for money. We tell our clients that. We call it the heart attack paragraph within our contract. We're going to fish for money. How much do you have in your 401k? How much do you have in your TSP? How much do you have outside of retirement accounts that technically could be liquidated? That's how we come up with a number, not 5%, but 20 or 30 or 40% down. Okay. Completely legal, completely ethical, because they've got the money that they could liquidate. Okay. Home inspection. Home inspection can be done one of four ways. One, don't do it, which I don't recommend. Pre-offer inspection. Are you guys doing a lot of those here? Heard of it?
I've seen a couple, but not as many as I would think would be done.
So the example of that listing agent says, we're not even, I've loved the memes, by the way, about how listing agents are ruling the world right now. But the listing agent comes back and says, we're not even looking at anything till Wednesday, and it's Thursday. It's a great opportunity if you go to your buyer and say, hey, look, we recommend a pre-offer inspection so you can make your offer without an inspection. The only cost to you is you could pay for an inspection and end up what? Not getting the house. Right? So it's a $550, a $600 cost to you. However, you could save thousands in case there was something wrong with it. And if there's something wrong, we don't even write on the property. Okay. So that's the pre-offer inspection. Highly recommend starting to do that if it's a truly hot house and they've given you time. Now, beyond that, you have the home inspection void only, which I already gave you the tip on that. Do a 24-hour, a 1 day, and you're going to be able to push that through a lot easier. Okay. Now, do you want to hear something that could be riding the line? Anybody want to hear one of those? We got only head nods because nobody wanted to admit they wanted to hear it, but I work off of vibe. So unless it's loud, I'm not going to do it. Anybody want to hear that could be on the line? Okay. Okay. So here's what could be on the line. And I like that we have our MLS procedures back here. Here's something that could be on the line. And I'm stating for a friend. I'm not saying that I do it. We've been able to get listing agents to agree to allow us to do a home inspection and keep their property active on the market. And our buyers have reserved the property with the right to walk away. So you'll get sometimes where listing agents or sellers will say, well, no, they're not going to do a home. They're not going to allow a home inspection because there's too many other people that won't want one, blah, blah, blah. We already have X amount of offers. Great. Well, what if during this time we did our own inspection? It's a 1 out or it's a 1 day thing. The buyer could cancel, but it doesn't impact you because your property never went off and then back on. Where everybody's question is what? Oh my gosh, you went off and then back on. What's wrong with the house? Okay. Now that one is riding the line. I already, Frank's leaning in. That one's riding the line. So you guys talk to your broker and attorney about that. That one actually was done to me. And I was like, oh my God, this is pretty spiffy. Right? Because like I wasn't worried about it because I didn't have to change status. So always be thinking outside the box as long as it's legal in your local market. Correct. So we had a ratified contract. The property was still listed active in the MLS. They could still do showings. We carved out the time for our own home inspection the very next day, and the buyer could still walk away. Go ahead. Oh yeah, I did and I would. I would much rather have a buyer do a home inspection than not do one, just for the legalities of it. Because then it looks like your seller's hiding something if they don't allow them to do an inspection. So all day long, I would rather have an inspection be done. I always love, and by the way, I love when someone says, well, it's an info only. What? So don't do it, but info only to me is the same thing. I love this. Back in the day, so early 2000s, when the buyers would waive everything. And they would say, oh, well, we just want an info only inspection. Okay, great. You know when you can do that? When you removed every single contingency, including the HOA, then we'll let you in. Well, no, they need to, you know, well, no, if it's info only, then it doesn't matter when it's done. By the way, we change all of our lockbox codes the next day, or we take the box off after we're ratified. Why do we do that? So they can't get in without us knowing it, right?
Yeah, that I have definitely from some of our agents that they suspected that the agent was doing an inspection, but wasn't right. Go back into the property,
Yep.
but didn't divulge that they were likely going to.
It's crazy, especially nowadays with like Ring and with all the webcams and everything. Anyway, home inspection standard. Has anybody gotten through a standard home inspection in the last 30 days? Like for one of your buyers? Multiple? Okay. So if you're not competing, we just got one through. This is interesting. We had, there was a home on at 505. We thought it would sell for like 540. There were no other offers. Our buyer got it for 510. With a home inspection, with an appraisal, with everything else. So understand there might be pockets in your market that could be softening even during what's predicted as an incredible seller's market, right? Okay, Radon, is Radon a deal here? Okay. Financing. So here's an interesting thing. I'm gonna make sure I don't go too long on this. Okay, this is interesting. Let me ask you this. Financing or appraisal, if you're the listing agent, which is stronger to have waived from the contract? Which one? Appraisal or financing? Appraisal, they're not always one and the same. Appraisal. So how do I explain? So here's the challenge. It's actually stronger to have your financing waived than it is your appraisal waived. Why is that? What is it? The money. So here's your challenge. So an appraisal, let me give you an example. I write on one of your listings and I'm going to do with what you said. I'm going to waive my appraisal, but I kept in my financing. Why is that not strong? Because at any time, the buyer can do what? Get out because of financing. So they get the appraisal back and it's 50K low. Guess what they're going to do? All of a sudden, not what? Qualify. So be careful when you're advising your sellers. It's actually stronger to not have a financing appraisal. You understand that, right? Because at any time, a lender could quote unquote red flag a buyer that they no longer are approved. Okay. It's very shady, but it can be done all day long. Okay. So be careful on that. Obviously, if they waive both, then you're in a great position. Okay.
I think what we're seeing though is that they're leaving in the financing. They're not necessarily waiving the appraisal because the lender may not allow them to waive the appraisal. What they are instead doing is offering an appraisal gap. So making a
Sure.
difference
Yeah.
in the appraisal. So
Yeah. And what's that? Yeah, sure. Yeah. And that's fair. And I've seen gaps as high as 30 or 40K, right? Standard, I would say, is 5 or 10K. I just want you to know as a listing agent, it's stronger for them to waive the financing than it is the appraisal, because at any time they can just balk on their financing. You understand that, right? Okay. Escalation clause. You guys are using that here? Okay. What we recommend is under 500,000, at least 2,600 for the gap between the two, right? The increment that you'll go up. When it's over 500,000, we recommend 3,800. It's got to be big enough to push them over, right? If it's just 1,000 and they really like the other couple, guess what? Your couple's not what? They're not getting it. Okay. Home warranty. I actually love slipping this one in. So even if I'm doing escalation clauses or whatever, I'll have the seller pay for the home warranty. Most agents don't even understand the calculation of it. So I get a free warranty for our buyers, even when they compete with 5 offers. Okay. And that won't make it or break it, because a smart agent, when doing the escalation clause, will do what? We'll just add that to your escalation, right? Okay. By the way, have you ever gotten a ratified contract back, or what they want to ratify, and realized that the agent did the wrong math when you reviewed the other offer? Now, in ours, it's changed. Years ago, I had to write that they would give me X amount of pages from the contract. Now they have to submit the whole contract to you. Is that what it is here? They have to give you the entire other contract so you can read all the terms?
No, they're not.
They don't have to do that here?
They're not sending you the whole contract. They're typically just sending you maybe the first page.
Oh, wow. Yeah, so I would recommend start writing that into your contract. So if that's not standard template for Ocean City, Bethany Beach, start writing that in. That they have to give you the full contract of the bona fide other offer that pushes you up, so that you can look at all the terms, right? Like even the home warranty or even the termite, like all of that impacts the net effect. Okay. Oh yeah, no, but you want to see a full copy of that contract. And you'll get some agents that aren't willing to show it to you, which also means what? There's something they don't want you to see, or they're bluffing, or some other thing. Here's the thing. I love everybody, but even if it's my sister who I work with, I would make her send it to me, right? I trust what's in writing, and that's what I want to be able to show my client, right? Okay, so those are the tangibles. Those are things you could change at any time to win the offer. Let's talk about the intangibles, okay? These can also help you, and I also want you thinking of this as your USP, right? Unique selling proposition. Here's what's crazy. Have you noticed the buyers are now interviewing multiple agents? Have they done that to you here or not? Where, oh, not really? Wow. So we're now, this is crazy. We're having to compete against 3 or 4 agents just to get the buyer. And right now, who wants more buyers? But anyway, we still have to compete for it, right? So reputation is a big deal. You can use, if you're brand new, you can use the reputation of the office, right? If you're on a team, the reputation of the team. If you've been doing it for 30 years, obviously you can use that reputation that you have. And make sure you carry what we call signature stories. So have you, let me see a show of hands. In the last, let's call it the last 60 days, have any of you won a contract for your buyer because the other agent knew you? Okay, about half the room. You will win that way. And it's important for you to tell the buyers that that's part of how you win, right? That it's an old school network. We've been around for 30 plus years. If they recognize my name versus a brand new agent, which one do you think they're going to push the seller to take, right? Results. Now, this is really big. This is because I searched this. If all of you wrote on one of my listings, part of what we would do for vetting the offers is I would pull how many homes you've sold in the last year. And if it's a specific key area, like for instance, Arlington, Virginia, I would pull how many you've actually sold in Arlington. So like if it's maybe an exclusive or a luxury area in Bethany, I would pull and see who's actually sold here. Why? Because they're going to convey the right confidence to that buyer to stay with it, even if the appraisal comes in low, right? Is anybody searching the results? Now, think of it for your buyers. We also convey, and this, we have a larger team, so all the numbers go underneath my name. So the scary part of that is what? That agent, listing agent, doing their due diligence could look up that buyer agent and find out what? 0 sales. And that doesn't mean they have 0 sales. It's just nothing under their name. So that's where we always actually show our results in the cover letter and as part of the contract, where we'll say results in the last year, 212 homes sold, right? Lender call and letter. You're probably doing this, right? Are you having your lender call the other agent? Okay. Now here's one key tip. Let's say the home's on at 450. You're going to escalate to 500. How much should that lender letter be for? 500? More? Frank, you gave a number. As much as they can afford. So if they can afford 850, that lender letter should show 850. Caveat is if they're competing, right? So you may want to use this terminology. This is what we call it a prince offer or a popper offer. Okay. A prince offer or princess offer, if the buyer's female, is what? I want to make you look as wealthy as possible, like you just have burn bags of money, Okay, that's what I want to show. If you're not competing, I want to do the popper offer. I want to make you look as poor as possible, right? So going back to the earnest money and deposit, competing, 50,000 earnest money, 20, 30% down, right? From fishing for money. Not competing, $5,000, you know, the 1%, and maybe a 3 or 5% down, right? Because remember, you can always change your financing later. So even if your buyer is doing 10%, it's better for your buyer to show 5% or less, right? Because here's the thing. We actually do the opposite. Have anybody worked with a cash buyer recently? So with cash buyers, we actually make them get approved with one of our lenders so that if they're not competing, we write it as a loan. Now, why would we do that? Sounds a little counterintuitive, right? Here's the thing. If the home's listed at 900 and your cash buyer wants to offer 870, is the seller going to come down? More importantly, should they come down? Because if a buyer's got $870,000 in cash, guess what else they have? Another 30K. But if you write that cash offer as a loan, now what? Now they might think, okay, well, maybe they're stretching and 875 is their target market. So I always want you to think through what best represents your client and also what will get it ratified, right? So by the way, I love telling that to a cash buyer because they get insulted almost. What? No, I'm all cash. Yeah, but that's not the strategy. Here's the strategy and here's why. And most of them walk away from that meeting and go, oh, wow. Yeah, no, I'm glad we had this conversation, right? Multiple offer comparison. We actually do our own grid. We highlight everything that makes us better than everyone else. We include our escalation and net offer in case the agent can't do math, okay? And then we do offer 2 and offer 3. We put that as part of the one single PDF, and we put it in our cover letter email to the other agent. Because what I found over time is the full offer and email doesn't always get sent, that most agents can't break apart a contract if it's one PDF. So we always have it as part of the PDF, right? Look how I'm appealing to the lowest common denominator, right? Yeah. Email page highlight. This is really important as well. So whatever we have in that email, we also have as part of the offer. Oh, so our offer is offer 1 because we want them to choose it. And then offer 2 and 3 are blank, but they show, for instance, if we have 100,000 earnest money, it'll say earnest money deposit 100,000, and then I'll have a space for offer 2 and a space for offer 3. We want to make it as simple as we can for these listing agents, right? When you represent the buyer. Okay, good. Go to the next page, please. Go back. So maybe, oh yeah, letter from the buyer. So I did skip over it. You know why I skipped over it? No, it's important. Is it? Well, so NAR, short answer is we're still doing it. Okay. A lot of times they tell you to remove the photos now, right? You shouldn't have photos of your people. There were even a time where people were doing videos of their clients and sending that over. With fair housing and everything else, just be very careful. Talk with your broker on what you should do or not do. But you can do a letter. It is important to do that. When we walk through a property, we look for 3 commonalities. And we make sure that those 3 commonalities are in it. For instance, oh, the owner went to the Naval Academy. Oh, the owner loves the Redskins. Oh, sorry, Washington football team, right? Oh, or they like this or that. We'll put that into the letter. It was funny. I had a buyer recently, and they're like, well, James, that doesn't make any sense because you know what they say. Money talks, right? I always love it when someone brings up something and it's like they created it. I'm like, okay, yeah, money talks, great, wonderful. I said, well, money talks, but letters whisper. Like what? I was like, yeah, that's why you need to take the time, the 10, 15 minutes to do it. Even when my buyers won't do it, I'll do one for them. That's how much I believe that give them the edge if everything else is the same. Okay. With their permission. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Sure.
Next thing you know, she's got 7 offers and 4 of them have letters. And this buyer's going to go with letters. That's just the way she is. So I told her right up front, I said, I'm going to offer with you, and I'm going to review the letters. but we're not making a decision based off the letter. I thought that you guys are going front. That's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah. So to repeat that, 7 offers, 4 had letters, the other 3 didn't. Did she go with one of the ones that had letters or didn't have the letter? Like, sure, and it could be. Okay.
I think buyer's agent like that, tuition coming up, like kids are going to school.
I'll give you an example. Remember that one I told you went from 700 to 825? Those buyers were both veterinarians, and they offered 1 year of pet care to the sellers. So there's nothing that stops them from doing that, right? So be thinking about even creative things that could be done. We've had buyers. We've seen buyers offer hotel stays, like all kinds of crazy things. But what's fun is it's outside of their escalation, which means it could actually save them money because it doesn't pump up. The other thing we've seen them do, I don't have it on here, is pay for recordation taxes or seller fees. Because it doesn't escalate their price, it comes out of their pocket. So, but someone who's cash strong could get the property for less money because they're offering something outside of an escalation cap. Okay.
Had some buyers offer the sellers the ability to come out and use the property for 1 week in the summer with their family.
Oh, nice.
Since with their family, that's you know what?
Mm.
Family is worth it. You're right, no, that.
Nice. No, I love that, especially in resort communities, right? You're right, because that has been the family vacation for the last 15, 20 years. That's a great opportunity. Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's talk about if you continue to see it. We started making buyers register their offer. I got tired of seeing like 15 different emails and having to track it all. So now they actually have to go to nellisgroup.com/submit-offer to register their offer. Once they've registered their offer, they now send a PDF of their offer. The beautiful thing about this is it auto-populates everything into the spreadsheet. So rather than taking an hour or 2 hours of your time to fill in all the details, all we have to do now is what? Pull up the spreadsheet, compare it really quick to their offer to make sure everything's correct. So it takes you from an extra 2 hours you would have spent down to probably 15 to 20 minutes. The other beautiful thing about this is we actually share it with our sellers. So, yep, no, you're good. Every time we list a property. So what I want you to start doing is automating the process as a listing agent. So every property that we put live, before it even goes live, we use Google Business. We have an electronic folder for the property. We then put in, if we expect 3, 5, whatever offers, we'll put in 5 offer folders. Our sellers have access to all of these. We don't have to send back and forth 20 emails with the sellers. They can review the offers at any time, which saves me time. I know it was presented to them because they had access to it. And then we use our multiple offer spreadsheet. Okay. And if you go to the multiple dash offers on our website, you can download our spreadsheet. How we're using it, feel free to, grip and rip. Well, no. So they're filling out the submission form. It goes into the Google spreadsheet that only the seller and we see. So they don't get to see everybody else because they're just submitting online. They're going to a Google form. So that's a good question. So the agent or the buyer goes to a Google form on our website, fills out all the details of their offer. That then populates to a spreadsheet that only myself, our listing team, and the seller gets to see. So, correct. So as soon as they do this, automatically is emailed to them. Great, send your full PDF offer to mrs@nellisgroup.com. Right? But here's what's fun. On Google spreadsheet, I can see who's logged into the form. And so it's always fun to see my sellers logged in throughout the day, waiting to see what's happening, what's new. So instead of thinking about this, instead of the seller calling you to say, hey, any more offers? Hey, anything else going on? It's already here. So I've educated them on the fact that they don't need to call me because it's all right here. And guess what? If there's not a 4th offer, guess what? That 4th offer never came in. Okay. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Anybody doing this already? You see the value of it, how you could automate that especially if you're serving buyers and sellers, you just really don't have the time for it. Okay. Now, you do have to take that 15 or 20 minutes I told you about to do what? To fact check. Make sure that their offer and their submission is one and the same, right? Okay. How are we doing? 10:55. Good. We're good on time. Even if we weren't, I'm just going to say that as like a confidence builder. We're good on time. Okay. Listing treasure map. Number 2. Number 1, winning. Now, let me ask you this. Who feels more confident to win in today's market just from the last 40 minutes? Only 3 people? Oh, okay, good. You just weren't paying attention. I was like, oh my God, like, what have I been doing up here? Okay, wonderful. Now let's go into listing inventory. This is the question that every agent across the entire country asks, which is what? Where do I find more listings? Which are literally pots of gold today because, well, I don't say everything because that's emotional, but I would say 99% of the homes are selling. Would you agree with that? Even the ugly ones, even the ones like, don't buy that, like perfect time for those sellers, right? Listings treasure map. So let's walk through what this looks like. This is where we're going to go with it. I'm going to go quick detail. Notice how I didn't say in depth. Quick detail with each of these things so you can learn from it. As you're looking at this, expireds, FSBO, open houses. I won't go through all of them because I'm going to highlight them further as we go. But just understand that there's 12 different places today you could get business. Probably outside of your current lead lever that you're using. Okay. All right, let's jump into it. So expireds. Who's doing expireds right now at a high level? Good. How many expireds have you got in the last 90 days? Not many. Okay. Could we have a more compelling volunteer? Okay. I can say that because I know her. So, okay, go to the next one. Okay. Before I go to the next one, I'm going to show you how Audrey's going to be excited now with expireds and everyone else will as well. So take a look at this. Here's the problem. When they expire, who calls the next day? Everybody, right? Who calls 14 days later? Maybe 50% of them. 30 days later, forget about it. It's real estate agents. Yeah, maybe 2 people. How about 60 days later? Maybe 1. But I want you to be strategic about it. So 1, next day, absolutely. It's still worth calling the next day because they're hot to trot. They're ready to go. 14 days later, 30 days later, 60 days later. I personally love 6 months and 12 months because by 6 months and 12 months, all these scavengers are gone. Everybody else that's calling, they're gone. They were looking for the quick rip, right? They're all gone. So at 6 months and 12 months, if they had rented it out, they're now thinking again about selling it, right? If they're an absentee owner, they've gotten past the hurt of not selling, right? Now, I love this. The congratulations script. I stole this out of No Bull Selling. Anybody read that book, No Bull Selling? If you haven't, you should. I think it's one of the funniest books in real estate. Hank Tristler, RIP, but he wrote the book. And can I put you on the spot? Do you remember the congratulations script? Oh, okay. No, but you can do it. Okay. The congratulations script. I've taught this before. I actually had an opportunity to teach in Arizona, and then a year later, I went back and taught again. And it was funny because I had an agent come up to me and she said, well, I used the script. You know where that's going, right? Okay. Well, what happened? Well, I got an appointment. I'm like trying to realize where's the fault. Okay. Yeah, but I didn't get the listing. Okay. So now, without any judgment, do you think it was the script or the agent? Okay. Now let's go into the script. So instead of calling and saying what everybody else says, right? What does everybody say? Hey, I saw your home is no longer on the market, or hey, your home just expired, right? Would you agree that that's what everyone's been taught? It's really simple. Hey, congratulations. What do you naturally say? Congratulations for what? Well, congratulations on selling your home. I'm assuming you sold it off market. Huh? No, I didn't sell my home. And why are you calling me? Well, because we're the local experts for Bethany Beach. We want to keep a captive report on every home that's sold. Since you're no longer on the market, our assumption was you sold it off market. I want to know how much you sold it for so that we can comp out the rest of the neighborhood. So can you share with me how much you sold it for? And they're ultimately going to say what? I didn't sell it. I didn't know it wasn't on the market, blah, 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 blah. But there's a great book called Fanatical Prospecting as well, if you haven't read that. But that talks about disrupt, anchor, ask. So the disruption in the pattern was I didn't say what everybody else is saying. Instead, I said, congratulations. That disrupted their pattern for them to say, for what, right? I then anchored it with, well, you must have sold it off market. I then asked them how much, which all clues back to what? Well, I didn't sell it, so what should I have done? Which goes into the 4 reasons methodology. Does anyone know the 4 reasons a home does not sell? There's actually 5 reasons now, but the 4 reasons a home doesn't sell in today's market. Anyone know? Price, condition, crappy agent. Okay. So if I'm in that phone call, I'll say, well, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, there's only 4 reasons a home doesn't sell in today's market. The first 2 you control. By the way, that's what you just told me, right? Price and condition. Would you agree with that? If everything's been remodeled, you've done everything, you can be at a higher price. The next 2 are why you'll now want to work with the Nellis Group for marketing and negotiation. Now, let me ask you this. Why do you think it didn't sell out of those 4 reasons? Okay. So I want you to use that as an introduction script. Okay, next one. Oh, let me pause on that. Does anybody have, I guess it was just you and I on the expires. Does anybody else have a good expired script? Okay, we'll move to the next one. FSBO approach. Gotta love for sale by owners. Everyone's a for sale by owner today, right? Okay, click to the next. Okay, I love this strategy. I got it from an agent in Michigan. And when he told me this, I was like, well, heck, I want to work every FSBO now because you don't do anything. You make 1 phone call and that's it to the FSBO. Your 1 phone call is simply this. Is your home still for sale? Yes, it is, but I'm not paying you a commission. Okay, great, right? Isn't that about what's going to happen? Okay, fantastic. When you do get an offer that has a loan, who's going to proof it for you? What do you mean? Who's going to proof the financing to make sure it's going to go through? Well, I don't know. Well, why don't I introduce you to a local lender that can approve every buyer that writes on your home? No cost to you. Okay, step 1. Step 2, when you do get an offer, even if it's all cash, who's going to proof that contract to make sure it favors you and not the buyer? Huh? Well, I've sold a couple homes, whatever it is. Great. Can I introduce you to a local title company or attorney that will proof the offer when it comes in to make sure that there aren't any trap doors for you as the seller? So here's what's done. And then the contractor, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, the reason that most contracts fall apart is because during the inspection period, they find something wrong, there's a concern, no one can fix it, and they walk away. Can I introduce you to a local contractor? Now, here's what's fun. That's the last phone call you have with them. You have weekly calls with who? Your lender, your title company, and your contractor to say what? Hey, is Joe and Susie, are they doing anything? Did they get any offers? And you're keeping them up to date with your sales. So like in the month of May, if you had 10 sales, that lender is now able to say, hey, do you have anybody for me to approve? I haven't heard from you. No, I don't have anybody to approve. Man, it is a crazy market out there right now. Susie just sold 10 in May, 10 other homes, right? Once they've had 3 or 4 of those calls and the seller's been unable to sell, what are they now naturally going to do? So I love this approach because it's cross-selling you. And the only person you have to keep up with is who? Your lender and your title rep to make sure they're calling them weekly. Okay, good. Anybody doing this already? This approach. This is fantastic because you don't have to do anything. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Cross-selling you. Absolutely. Yeah. For the people that won't pick up the phone, that's a great opportunity as well. Okay. Okay. Open houses. I'll go ahead and steal it real quick. That way. No, I'm a little bit of a control freak. It's been freaking me out that you've had control. So is that okay to admit? Hi, my name is James and I'm a control freak. Okay. Open houses. Who does open houses here? Anybody do open houses and get a lot of business from it? You do? Okay. What's been the key strategy for you? Oh, you mean the part about work. Got it. Follow up, right? The reason you guys aren't getting business from open houses, nobody follows up. Or you don't do the open house. Or you get so successful that you're like, oh, open houses are beneath me, right? I love that one. So let me walk you through a couple different things. One is I have loved COVID for the QR code reemergence because every new buyer is trained what? How to use QR codes because the restaurants made them. Okay. So now when we do an open house, they're not filling out, they're not writing in anymore. Go ahead, take out your phone and take a photo of that QR code real quick. Tell me, I updated this slide last night. We'll find out if it's correct or not. So take a photo and tell me where it lands you. Good. A place to register. If you scroll down, you'll see what you have to put in there. Well, here's what's fun. Ever done an open house and you're like, holy heck, like Mickey Mouse at Yahoo? Like, I don't even know what this is. Now, could someone still scam you? Of course they could. But I can tell you that during COVID, we've had no one say no to that. I've had people say, well, I already registered at Redfin or this or for that. Well, that's fine, but this is my open house. So go ahead and register if you want access, okay? I've loved that part of it. It copies our listing agent. They know everybody that's come through. They know if they have an agent or not and who to follow up with, okay? So if you're not using QR codes for that, start doing that. We also haven't done any print. I don't know, is print back in your houses? Are you guys now printing out brochures and putting it back in the house? So we haven't yet. And what we're doing now is a QR code that goes to our custom brochure and all the information online. And we put it in one of those plastic sleeves. I love it because I had crazy amount of costs for print of all these different brochures. And we have not gone back to print in the home by design. So think about that. I'm literally only printing two things, the QR code for the open house and the QR code for the house itself. Okay. Now, exclusive neighbor open houses. Are you doing those? That's a great opportunity. Some agents are doing it the same day. So if your open house is from 2 to 4, some of them are doing it from 12 to 1 for just the neighbors. I personally like the twilight one. If you have the time or if you really want to own that community, where the Thursday before that Sunday from 5 to 7, you're doing just a neighbors only, come and see the home before all the crazy people over the weekend, right? Of course, what are you doing? You want to have that time with other sellers in the community. Charity bags. This is genius. I wish I could take credit. Kenny Kloss out in Arizona came up with it, at least to my knowledge. He created those tote bags, right, that were stamped with his information. He would then door knock before the open house that week and put the charity bag on their door or give it to them and say, what? I'm doing a food drive for, what's a local pantry in Bethany Beach? What's it called? Is it just the Bethany Beach Food Pantry? It's just a regular food bank. So you would door knock before the open house. Hey, I'm doing a charity drive for food, for distribution to the food bank. If you have any that you can contribute, just bring it by. I'm doing an open house from 2 to 4 this Sunday. Here's what's genius about it. Remember, it was somebody else, so I'm not saying I'm genius. Well, ideally, you're not taking away from food at the pantry. We won't say his name because he's off camera. But what are you doing? Don't you always try to figure out, is this a buyer? Is this a seller? Who is this? Everyone that comes with a charity bag is automatically what? A seller in that community, right? There's no more guesswork. That's what I love about it. Door knocks. You should door knock more than this, but I know we're going to the lowest denominator, right? So at least 10 doors to the left, 10 doors to the right, and 20 across. To door knock and talk about the open house.
What's the back end of the QR code house that form set up?
Oh, just Google Forms. It's just a Google form that goes into a spreadsheet so that we can monitor who's come through and what time. Yeah. Mm. So here's what's fun. There's no wrong way. I wouldn't do it that way, right? But the nice thing about that is that's teaser information that right away they're getting information. Do you remember when I taught price bracket emailing? So a more compelling one is to take exactly what Frank just said, which is true. Absolutely. Put them into a hot campaign. The problem with that hot campaign is if they don't like any of those homes, what will they not do? They're not going to reach out to you because they didn't like any of those homes or there was no inventory. So one key strategy is you actually pull that community. There's 3 homes. Instead of giving them a link to anything, you're saying, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, there are 3 homes right now in XYZ community. Let me know if you'd like to schedule a meeting to go see any of them. And guess what? There's no click through. So they actually have to reach back out to you to find out if those are the 3 homes they know about or 3 homes they don't know about. So be careful on how much information you give them. Now, I would agree that the information is already out there, correct? However, what did you learn this morning that's not out there that only you would have access to if it's temp off? So I would always search that in combination with they came through the open house. Guess what? There's 2 properties that are temp off that you could get them into. Okay, here's key strategy. Limited time, only 60 minutes to 120 minutes for the open house. Now, during COVID, we expanded that to 2.5 hours because we made people stay outside and we only allowed 2 families in the home at one time. You guys are probably more wide open than we are, okay? But think about the key strategy of how long. I like personally 1 to 3. We do 1 to 3 or 2 to 4. Okay, first weekend, because I want everybody there at the same time. Worst thing you can do is do a 4-hour open house and everybody scattered throughout all those 4 hours. So there's no impetus for that buyer to go, oh my God, look at all these people, right? We call it shoes at the door, right? I want everybody like stumbling over shoes and going, oh my gosh, somebody might buy it before us. So 60 minutes or 120. Once we fully get out of COVID, I would recommend going back to 1 hour. 1 hour, make it slammed. Because there's a QR code that they have to register with, there's no longer you tracking it down and saying, oh my gosh, can I get that back from you? Right? Because they had to do it before they entered the home. Okay. I also recommend always having 2 agents at the property, 1 for safety, 2 for the QR code. That's how we made everybody sign in QR code outside before they could get entry inside. Okay. All right. And then significant adjustment. So let's say I had the home on at 500 and it's the worst opportunity because all you hear is crickets, right? Nothing's happening. It's been 30 days. You now take it from 500 down to 450. I would do another open house then. You're in a new price bracket. Now, if your seller goes, yeah, take it down from 500 to 495, I probably wouldn't do another open house. Okay. You guys use your own judgment on that. All right. Make me move. So the Zillow make me move, it's still there. And what is that? That's when a seller says what? Well, I know my home's worth 500, but if I get 600 for it, I'd sell it tomorrow. That's a great opportunity for you to find new listings. You could still do the cross-sell technique you learned with the FSBO, right? Make sure you have enough reviews on Zillow. We'll get into reviews in a little bit. Also, I recommend paying for Zillow Premier. It's pretty cheap. Take a cheap zip code. So I think we only pay like $100 or $150 a month for that. That allows us to feature. Now it's only like 5 properties. Maybe it shrunk to 3. And I love this one. There's been a lot of listings. I hate to admit this. There's been a lot of listings I didn't get. But you know what I did get? The referral. Because the second question we always ask, one, hey, what's your make me move price? And would you consider that? Would you co-broke with us? Would you co-op? Would you pay our commission? By the way, where are you headed? Well, I'm going to Bethany Beach. Oh, going to Bethany Beach. Have you seen inside any homes yet? No. We're going to go this weekend for our first time. Oh my goodness. You got to talk to Joe. You got to talk to Susie. You guys want? Can I connect you today? I can tell you that the majority of buyers that are out there or sellers that are out there have not connected yet in Hilton Head or Florida or wherever. So know that you can get that referral right up front. Okay. Okay. Rentals. Who does property management? I know it's a little bit different at the beach, right? Because there's these big warehouses that do it. I love having a property management company because it's a long-term listing agreement. At some point, they're going to sell. So my father, who runs our property management, one year he had like 17 sales, which is weird because he's not in the field at all. Guess what all 17 were? Rentals. Landlords that had had enough and asked him, hey, is it a good market to sell? Well, yes. And it's been a good market for the last couple of years, right? So if you are not doing it yourself, find a property management company that will actually send you deals, send you clients. Find one that doesn't also list, and you may or may not have that down here at the beach, right? I would actually start looking through Zillow rentals. You might have somebody that was overpriced who's now willing to sell their property. Long days on market. Find that rental company. There's some rental companies that don't care about listing it for sale. If you see something that's been on the market for 60, 90, or 120 days, good opportunity to reach out to that agent to say, hey, will you be putting it on the market for sale? No. Well, can I do it? Okay. Expired rentals, those are great, just like the regular expireds and expired listings. Okay. The other thing that you make sure that you write into your agreement if you choose to do rentals is that you can proactively market to those tenants. And the win to the seller or the landlord is to say, you know what, if I sell this person a house, I'll re-rent yours for what? For free, right? There has to be a win to that landlord. Okay, vendor stakes. This always gets touchy in offices because I don't know what the relationships are or what they have, but here's what we do. 5-to-1 ratio. So if I'm talking to my lender, I'm telling them right up front. My financial planner, right up front. My attorney, right up front. My expectation is this. If I give you 15 transactions this year, I expect how many referrals from them? 15-to-1. 3, right? If I give them 30, I expect. I know when we don't have 3% math, it gets really wonky. What is it? 6. Yeah, just to divide by 5. We're not trying higher level math today. So, oh my God, are you doing core math? I can't help with core math. I'm tapping out if it's core math, everybody. All right, but here's what I want you to understand. My mother started the business in the 80s. When I started fully selling, none of our lenders were giving us any business, which is crazy. Because think about how many transactions and deals she was giving them. We put everybody on accountability. The first year I did that, I had 6 closed transactions from one lender. Now, don't you always love it when they say, oh, well, we're always what? We're always the last to know. You know, they already have an agent. Okay, well, I don't cuss, so I'll just say that's BS. Okay? Because they have family, they have their own SOI, they have other people they can refer to you. They're just not. So you have to make them purposeful. So here's a couple of people to think about who could be consistently doing it, because sellers could be getting their property ready with landscapers before they ever sign. They could be putting in new flooring. They could be talking to contractors, all these different people that could give you business that probably aren't right now. Obviously, low-hanging fruit, of course, is the lenders, your title company, and all of that, right? So be thinking through that. Oh, by the way, this is important enough to go back to. This is the meeting. So my team says that they should give me a t-shirt that says ETA, embrace the awkward. Like, I love having awkward conversations. Let me give you an example. So my awkward conversation I had one with a financial planner. I said, hey, Trip, I was looking through my records. It's got to be wrong. But I was looking through my records over the last quarter, and I don't see one referral from you. So can you look through your file and see how many people you sent me? Because I'm looking at my file and I show that I sent you 10 people over the last quarter. So that's got to be wrong. So could you just tell me, oh, well, I don't know that I did, James. Oh, good, because I thought it was my system. So you didn't. How many people will you be able to this quarter? Huh? Yeah. How many people? 3, 5, 10? What do you think? Let me ask you a different question. In your intake form with a new client or an old client, how many times are you asking if they're ready to buy or sell an investment property or their own personal property? Oh, well, James, I'm not really asking that. Okay, so when are you going to implement that? I had an agent one year who worked for us, and I was like, hey, you have your own financial planner. How many transactions has he given you over the last, how long have you been working with him? 5 years. Oh my goodness, 5 years. In 5 years, how many transactions? Huh? How many transactions has he given you the last 5 years? 0. How is it 0? Well, it kind of makes sense, James. Okay. Why does it make sense? Oh, because his wife is unbelievable. Okay. So by the way, he got a new financial planner the next day. All right. Getting involved in the school system. Now, I know you're a resort community. That may not be as powerful. Oh, what's that? So public versus private. Are there people that are sending their kids to school here locally or no? Oh, okay. Okay. So public versus private, what you can do, can't do. I know people for 1 year, there was a private school where I had the naming rights to the football field. So it was Nellis Stadium at Panther Field, right? I didn't do this out of like an ego thing, but I got my name in front of everybody. So this guy, Todd Buckley up in Michigan, he actually does kicking for college. And every halftime, the kid would kick. If he got it, he'd get $500 for a college scholarship. Okay. Kind of a cool program. But I want you thinking through the PTA, the AV department, and the faculty or staff. What I can tell you is this: when people come to town to search, the best people that can be on your side is the faculty up front, right? The secretaries and everyone else. So once a year, in a school that creates about 25% of our business every year, we do a free luncheon at the school. This is a thank you. So think outside the box. If you're looking at spending your marketing money, I would much rather have you just do a free luncheon for the faculty and staff at your local high school than to go do a direct mail campaign, right? It's a great opportunity to get in front of them, and they love it. I actually offered to take them out to a local restaurant, and instead they said, no. You'll get more teachers there if you just have it on campus, and they'll love it. They just come pick up their food and they go, right? AV department. Now this is fun. What would you do if I could told you for $500, you could have 50 videos done on any community that you want and recognize 3 good videographers that could do more videos for you? Would you pay the $500? Okay, you would. Everyone else is sleeping. So would you pay the $500? So here's how you do it. You go to the local AV department. First, you go to the principal, usually the superintendent, right? Go through the local channels. But once you get to the AV department, that's where you say, you know what? My real estate company would like to gift you $500 as long as you make this the assignment. So in the first quarter of next year, I want them to do community. Give me the community that's local that you would want to have market share in. What's the name of one? Bear Trap. So I want community videos on Bear Trap done by every student in your AV department. I want to own the masters of all of it. And I want a fully edited video for it to be 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever. You come up with all of it. Here's what's fun. You now get anywhere from 30 to 100 videos for that 500. Now, not all of them are going to be great. We know that. But here's what's fun. At least 3 of those videographers will show enough promise that now you could hire them directly. So for $500, you got 30 plus videos of B-roll that you could use at any time for your own marketing. On top of that, you've recognized local videographers who are high school kids, who, by the way, will do it for super cheap. Okay. Back in 2007, when I started doing videos, I was paying $1,000 per edited minute, which was a steal back then, by the way. Today, you should never pay more than $200. Okay. Sold. Now, once you've sold it, where do you find other listings? Anniversary calls, anniversary cards, home anniversary. Nobody else is calling them on that day, right? Birthdays, everybody's getting called. There is an agent that I know in Colorado, Denver, Colorado. She does 0 events, 0 money spent on clients. She only does one thing every year. She calls every single client and offers them a wealth portfolio meeting. Mr. and Mrs. Owner, would you like to have a wealth portfolio meeting where I show you how much your home is worth in today's market? Have you heard that your home's worth more than it was a year ago? Great. When's a good time where we can sit down and have coffee and I can walk you through how much your home is worth today? Well, I'm not thinking about selling it. I understand that, but most sellers today want to know what their net worth is. Part of your net worth is the home that you own, right? And the fun key about this, if you're going to target anybody, target the people who have owned their home for at least 5 to 7 years. Okay. The other thing, and what Frank mentioned before about this auto thing, this is a great opportunity for the auto thing. You can meet with them in person and then find out if they want that monthly update, and you sign them up for that monthly update through MLS or through whatever it is. So think about that as a post-sale strategy because you're consistently in front of them. Okay, networking. Networking is back, right? We're back in a room, which is very nice. So what should you be doing? Before I click, what are you doing? What'd you say? Get out of your boxers. Yes. I mean, or get into your swim trunks if it's like one of those kind of networking parties, right? Business vendor happy hours, creating your own, joining someone else's. Meetups. Is Meetup a big deal here? Do people use Meetup? No? Have you heard of Meetup? Yes? No? Okay, I encourage you to look at Meetup. Find out if it's a thing here or not. Find out if people are doing it. We used to tell our agents to join 4 of them. So when you're looking at expanding your SOI, Meetup is the only social media where the full intent is what? To meet in person. Okay? So what's fun about that is they always ask 2 questions at the very beginning. What's your name, man? What do you do? This is for business. Yeah. But the fun thing, well, I don't know your relationship status. So it can be whatever you want it to be. I did have a client call me and said, why did you tell my dad to go on Meetup? I'm like, what? Business to business welcome packages. So for those that are doing open houses, this is huge. If it's a market share where I want that community, where I want to own that community, I'll go to the top businesses, the top 10 businesses, and ask for a BOGO, a discount, something that I can show as a value to buyers. So now when they come into their open house, I'll say, hey, would you like one of our welcome packages that gives you discounts on the top 10 stores in the area? Who's going to give me a false email now? Nobody, right? I love when I've done this and they've gone back and said, oh, hey, let me give you another email just in case. That's when you know there's a value, right? All right, business highlights. This is huge. When you find that videographer, remember the 2 or 3 that emerge, go back to them and have them go do business spotlights or highlights, hopefully with you in the video as well, of the top 10, 15 businesses that are local. Now, as people Google those businesses, you'll also come up as well. And then charity involvement. What I've known about real estate is that everybody's involved deeply, but your clients don't always know that. Would you agree with that? You're probably spending a lot of time, money, and resources with local charities, but they have no idea. So you need to have that forward facing. All right, erase the reviews. Who in here has the most online reviews? Who do you think? I don't know, I'm asking. Should we poll the, can you see the audience? You can't see the audience, right? Well, no, you're correct on that, sir. Out of the real estate agents, who do you think does? Here's what I want to recommend. Figure out your strategy, whatever it is. Yelp, Google, Facebook, Zillow. I have an asterisk by Zillow for many reasons. One reason I have an asterisk is they dumped over 150 of my reviews out of nowhere. Tried to get them to put them back up. They just said, no, that's our discretion. Google has never done that. Google's too big to care about that, okay? But I can tell you that people will search for you in Google, and especially because you're a resort town. That's why I usually have Google #1. I moved Yelp up to #1 because you're a resort area. People will be looking for restaurants. They'll probably also be looking for real estate agents. So you need to make sure you get reviews. Your goal should be this. You want to have 100+ reviews for every one of those. Who has over 100 for any one of these 4? Over 100 reviews? Are you guys close? No? Well, I'm glad you're here today. So my recommendation is to have at least 100+ for each one of these, because that's social proof, isn't it? Like if I go onto Google, okay, let's share this. If I'm in Alexandria, Old Town, Virginia, that's where I live, and I'm thinking about buying in Bethany Beach, and I log in, and you only have 3 Google reviews, I'm going to keep what? Keep looking, because something's wrong, right? People are either not compelled enough with your service to go review you, or you were just not proactive in getting it. So I want you to start being proactive, and I want you to think through touch points. So when is everyone most happy with you, right? Don't get it when they're moving and they're stressed about moving and they're like, okay, fine. Yeah, so-and-so was a great realtor. Get it when they're excited. Would you agree that the buyer's super excited when they ratify? Same with a seller, right? Remember that seller that I got $825 for? He literally called me the next day. This is only like 2 months ago. He called me the next day and said, James, by the way, he was a real jerk going into it, right? He would admit that. He actually apologized once I got him that number. I mean, I was kind of a jerk to you. Oh, really? I didn't notice, right? I had my sales voice on. He called me back the next day and say, I just want to make sure it wasn't a dream. Huh? Yeah. Did I really sell this for $825? Yes, you did. Oh my God, this is amazing. So guess what did I do right then? You know how you could really help me? Give me a 5-star review on Google. I had a review before that night. Okay. So inspection time. Buyer loves it. There's no big problems, or you get a big win for your buyer. And even though I will say this, for negotiation, we've had a lot of home inspection void onlys where our buyers have still gotten money. Because I've gone back to them and said, it doesn't hurt to ask. There's mold, there's this, there's that. Why don't we ask? Seller, all the seller can do is say no. Over 50% of the time, we're getting sellers to do something. Okay. Week prior to settlement, because remember, the craziness hasn't happened yet. You could ask on settlement day. I don't recommend that just because that's usually some chaos. I love the week after settlement if you haven't gotten it yet. If you're like, oh no, I forgot about this. The next best that's not even on here is when you're now thinking, oops, I haven't done this for like 2 years, or I've never done this. Okay. When's the best next time? Today. Now. Right? Yeah. Oh, good question. So do you go to all the platforms? Correct. And you don't want them to either. There are some businesses that will auto post for you into them. I don't recommend it. Okay. So here's how, what's your name? Scarlett. So here's how I do it, Scarlett. I would say, hey, Scarlett, we would love a 5-star review. Do you feel like you could give us a 5-star review online? Ooh, it seems painful. Well, that's tough because we got you less than list price and you had all your inspections in it. Nobody else is doing that. Okay, good. Now I made you feel awkward. Okay, so then I would say, out of these, which one are you on? Are you on Yelp? No? Okay. How about Google? Do you have a Gmail account? I would already know that, of course, if she was using. You know what, Scarlett, I know you have a Gmail account. Can I get a 5-star review from you today on what we did that went beyond your expectations? Right? Facebook's okay. If you're going to focus on one of them, focus on Google. Google. Put Google number 1. Focus on that. For your resort area, I would get on Yelp and just see how many are out there. The problem with Yelp is this. If Scarlett has never reviewed anything on Yelp and I'm her first review, it'll never get through the filtering process. So Yelp has a filtering process that you want to be the 5th or beyond review. So on Yelp, if I'm like, oh, are you on Yelp? Yeah, I'm a Yelper. Wonderful. How many restaurants have you reviewed in the last year? Oh, well, none. Okay, great. Can you review me on Google? Right? Or if she's like, oh yeah, no, like every restaurant I go to, I've got photos, I do this, this, and this. Wonderful. Then I'm going to have her review me on Yelp. Okay. So just understand Yelp has its own filtering process because I've had agents get upset because they're like, 10 of my clients did it and none of it's showing up. Right? Usually that's because it was their first or second review within Yelp. And so Yelp screening process says, don't let that through. Okay. Good. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes. Thank you. Key strategy. So I do have a full day social media class. That's different. But yes, I appreciate that. Key strategy. Before you ask for a review, have a business page. Because otherwise they can't go anywhere to review you. So no, they don't have to. So on Google, anybody with a Gmail account can, and I think even outside of Gmail can give you a review. So you're not limited to that. So the way that we made it easy, and I would recommend this, create your own vanity URL. Because the problem is Nellis Group, that's our family business, shows up in multiple areas. So we had like 25 reviews here, 100 reviews here, and all that other stuff. So instead, we created a hot link. So ours is nellisgroup.com/Google. When they go to that, they go to my website, they click on one button, and they're doing a review where I want them to do the review. So I would recommend each of you create your own vanity link on your website. So xyz.com/Google. When they click on that, they'll have a 1-click process. Yes, it's technically 2 clicks. Hopefully your service was worth 2 clicks. Okay. So that once they click that, they'll go right to the Google page. And like you asked, sir, to the business page you want them to review. So that's super important. You can do the same thing with Yelp. You can do the same thing with everything else. Okay. Okay, good. So highly recommend focusing in on that. Here at the beach, I would focus in on Yelp and Google first. Okay. All right. Additional attorney resources. So let's think about that. Attorneys could be channel clients. And what I had somebody say it recently. They said, oh, that's a database booster. Have you heard that one before? I hadn't heard that before. Database booster. So one client who could get you 10 clients in one given year, right? We call those channel clients because they could send us multiple people in a year. Who would that be? Give me a mention of someone. Who would that be? And they just, sure, but what field or industry would they likely be in? An accountant? Good. An attorney? Doctors? What? Give me the variety of attorneys. Divorce attorney? Insurance agent? Estate? Probate? Adoption. This is when I learned, I was in another state teaching, and someone goes, oh man, one of my big channel clients is adoption. I was like, what? They're like, yeah, an adoption attorney. Because why? When people go to adopt, they typically have to do what? Get a bigger house. Get a bigger house. I was like, that is genius, right? Right. Yeah, people aren't going after it. So find out who the adoption attorneys are in your local area. Same thing with divorce attorneys. Here's what I can tell you is they're probably being underserved by who they are right now.
She had a good one.
Okay, sure, absolutely. I will not touch the rest of that conversation. Pay-per-click. Who's paying for leads right now online? Anyone? A couple of you, okay? So we do in a couple different places. For us, we use Sync. I know Boomtown's big out there. We do pay, remember, for Zillow featured. We don't pay for their leads anymore. AdWorks, Facebook, Google. We're paying now for Google Screen. Has anyone done Google Screen? If you haven't, you should. If you do a search for Bethany Beach, I guarantee you that at the top, it's going to say Google Screened, and Google wants to make money on it. So now their Google Screen ranks higher than everything else. You have to go through the process. You have to give them your insurance, this, and this, and then they qualify you to be quote unquote Google Screened. There are many agents getting listings because when they search Bethany Beach, that pops up at the top, Google Screened, right? It's kind of like a verified, okay? You do have to pay to play. It's pay-per-click. The Google Screen's pay-per-click, just like anything else. But it seems like a higher level of authority because rather than being over on the right-hand side where we're used to seeing that, it actually has a badge that says Google Screen. But here's the catch. Within Google Screen, it has your photo, and then what does it have right underneath it? Who knows? We just talked about getting a bunch of them. Well, hopefully all your reviews or none of your reviews because you didn't get them yet, right? Okay. All right, let's talk about referrals. How are we doing? Oh, way ahead of schedule. Not really. 11:37. Okay, here's what I want to do because we've been moving pretty fast. Don't worry, we're not going to go to some kind of Zen state. We're all going to take a breath together. Ready? On the count of 3, online as well. We're going to take a deep breath and then exhale when I say exhale. So 1, 2, 3. Exhale. Okay. That was my way of saying I'm not going to slow down. I'm going to speed up. Okay, we ready? Okay, good. If this was a 3-hour segment, I'd give you a break. If you need to go to the bathroom, go to the bathroom. I won't take it against you. I will give extra clues that you didn't have before and tell them not to share with you. But feel free to go to the bathroom. Okay, so what does it look like? The referral flow, business cards. The worst thing you could ever do is give your client your business cards. Why? They throw them away. Or when I was young in the business, one of my clients came up and said, James, I need your business cards. How many? Give me like 50. Oh man, I got excited. I was like, 50? Oh my goodness. I gave them all 50. 6 months later, any results? Not one. But he calls me. He's like, James, I need more business cards. You what? I need more business cards. I'm out of them. I don't know what to tell you, Keith, but I've gotten 0 business from it. Really? Yeah, because here's what's the problem. When he gives out a business card, who's in control? Who's in control? That potential client. And that potential client in that cubicle, right, when everybody was there, not telecommuting, got what? 3, 4, 5 other business cards. So nothing separated you. So quit giving out. I actually told him, I'm not going to give you any more business cards. You are not trustworthy with business cards, right? I can say that because we had a good relationship. But I had to train him on what he should say. And I say train like in a good way, right? Community mailers, name tags. There are agents that will tell you that, and probably in this room, right? You wear your name tag all the time because you got business in line at the grocery store one time. Okay. That's just not my speed, right? Everybody, by the way, you can be successful in many different ways, okay? My recommendation, oh boy, I don't know if the chat came up when I said name tags or when I said get rid of your business cards. Probably a broker that wanted their business cards everywhere. Okay, so the referral flow. Let me ask you this. If we are retraining our clients and you, what should they say to that potential client? So Tony in the office says, I want to buy a house. What's the conversation you've already had with your client that gets you connected? Who has a script that you can give me? Does anyone have a powerful script? Does anyone online have a powerful script? I'll have to click on that. I'll click on it. Unless it says something about my hair. Let's see. Chat 1. All right, we'll come back to it unless I can. Oh, is he saying Google Screened? If you want to type in Google Screened ED. Google Screened. Oh, no, I clicked on it.
Oh, okay. The little screen.
Okay, well, we'll come back to that when we have extra tech time. Ask it again. How do you, okay, let me ask it again. Thank you. I should have already asked it again because apparently I didn't ask it the right way. So how do you, how do you currently empower your clients to get you connected with new business? How do you currently empower your clients? What do you tell them to say so that you get new business when someone raises a hand in their office? What's the conversation you tell them? Remember, I got away, we said no more business cards. I'm not trying to stump anybody. I'm just asking, do you have a script? Okay. We do a day-long class. Frank's seen some of it before. It's Revolution or SEO Revolutionized. Part of it is this. So I'm going to show you. Well, let me ask you because it feels a little dead in here. Do you want to see the script that will make you money?
Yes.
I'm not convinced. Do you want to see the script that will make you money?
Yes.
Okay, that's a little better. Okay. This is the script that will take you from 60% to 80% conversion rate with your SOI. I'm going to just let that sink in for a second, and then I'm going to have somebody in here read it, and then I'm going to read it or tell it to you. So everybody read through it really quick. There's a reason that the top of it is called that, so that you don't forget those key terms in the script. So the script, we call it, is trust, value, permission script. Okay? We call it that, so in no way can you forget trust, value, permission. So I've had a lot of clients over the years that say, oh, James, well, I told Sue about you, but I didn't have her permission to connect you, so it kind of felt awkward. But I gave her all your information. And guess what? Sue never called. Okay. All right. Who feels confident in the room to deliver this script now that it's sunk in? Go ahead. You're right front and center. You're close. Go for it. I am your client. You're the real estate agent. I'll be your client. Yeah. No, read it.
Okay, thank you for the trust you've shown in our company over the years and recognizing the value that you bring in real estate. Usually when someone asks about real estate, we'd love for you to connect us. Simply ask for their permission and copy us on text.
Okay. And then you could add, are you okay with that? Do you feel comfortable with that? You can add whatever you want afterwards. But I want you to understand the value of this script. When we started using this, our referrals went through the roof. To date, we still have over 83% of our business is referrals. Okay. By the way, have you ever had an agent go, oh, 100% of my business is all referrals? Don't raise your hand if you're that agent. The reason that's not important is why. 100% of your business referrals, that means you can do more work. You can do more business. You could grow into something else, right? I want you to be focused on cold leads to expand even further. Now I get it. If you're on the downside and you don't care about that, that's cool too. But just by using this script, be aware that you'll have more business than you had before. Okay. So go ahead, ma'am. Oh, use Buffini line. Go ahead. What is it? Uh-huh. Can you hear her up there? In her thank you note. Go ahead. Okay, so in her thank you card, she says, thank you for trusting in me. I'm never too busy for any referrals. Great. I've seen that on the back of business cards as well. And what was the Buffini script? Was it something similar to that? So remember, we want you to disrupt, anchor, and ask. This is a script I've never seen anywhere. You know why I know that? Because I created it. Okay? And that's not out of ego. That's just to say, we want you to say something different than what's out there. By the way, she's way ahead of most of you because most of you aren't even doing that card. Okay? Let's start there. So kudos to you for doing that. You're laughing because it's painful and true. So here we go. Thank you. Thank you for the trust. Now, whenever it's bolded, I want you to overemphasize that. Thank you for the trust you have shown in our company over the years and recognizing the unique value that we bring to real estate. In the future, when someone asks about real estate, we would love for you to connect us. Simply ask for their permission to copy us on a text or email. Right? But this isn't even in bold because they're asking the wrong way. This is the way you ask. I'm a KW instructor. Don't say that I said that. Okay, go ahead. Tony, great script you just used. Go ahead.
I just needed your card out. So
Yes.
I know Jane got the straight names.
I love it. What's your name, ma'am?
April.
April. So I would say, April, that is fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. A lot of our clients aren't even doing that. Can I ask you this? Next time someone raises their hand, instead of giving a business card or doing whatever, can you just copy me on a text or an email with them? Of course, ask for their permission first. Do you feel comfortable doing that, April? But see how we've retrained the whole process? You're not getting called because they're giving out a business card or they're saying, oh, James is the best. You got to use them. They never contact you. Feel free to take a photo of this, but I want you to start using this script today because it will get you more business than you have. Okay? And that's the trust, value, permission. The permission is why most of it doesn't happen, right? They already trusted you. That's why they're willing to refer you. They already see value in you or they never would have tried to refer you. The problem is they're not getting permission from that person to copy you on a text or an email. And that's why you're not getting the referral. Okay? Or the recommendation. Ouch. I can tell you're old. So, yeah. Yeah, the promise. Yeah, Mike. Yeah. Mike Hicks. He's got the promise script and there's like, it's a long script. So remember what I showed you with my mission statement? Make it short and sweet. The reason I have this trust, value, permission is because it's easy to say. It's easy to remember. Now, the promise script is fantastic. You go into KW Command, just type in promise script, Mike Hicks, it'll come right up. It's like a page. And all it is he's just saying, if I do this, will you do this? If I do this, will you do this? If I do this, will you do this? And it gives him the permission to ask at least 3 or 4 times throughout the transaction for more referrals. That's not within me. Everyone has a different approach. There is no wrong approach. Like, I'm sure her card approach works like a charm or she wouldn't be doing it, right? The phone call, there's a couple other things to think through, but I want you to focus on the permission is why most of you don't get the business. You're probably all outstanding agents, but nobody knows how to connect you, okay? All right, referral agent connection. This is important. Unfortunately, it's become kind of like a popularity contest. Have you noticed that? So somebody's coming to, I need an agent in Bethany Beach. And then all of a sudden there's like 10, everybody's raising their hand. And then like 10 people you've never heard of, all of a sudden they're saying Joe Smith is the best to use. And you're like, Joe sold like 1 house last year, right? That's what you're thinking, but you wouldn't say it out loud, but that's what you're thinking, right? So here's what I recommend. 1, take your education out of area. Obviously jump into whatever Bridget puts you in person, but take your education in feeder markets where people will send you business for Bethany Beach. So give me 3 feeder markets that you guys know of. What's a feeder market? Mine, DC. Would you say Baltimore is a good feeder market for you as well? Philly. So I would put those 3 on your agenda for the next 12 months. And I would take at least 3 classes in each of those different areas. Okay. Whether it's a KW or a CRS or whatever course, some education. Video text. So here's what I've started doing because it is a popularity contest and everybody's commenting, blah, blah, blah. I actually go to that agent's information. I find their website. I find their cell phone. I call them. They probably won't pick up. And then I video text them. And that's been huge for me converting. And it's just simple. Hey, this is James Nellis. We serve Georgetown. We'd love to take care of your client. Give me a call when you're free. We can tell you how we can take care of so-and-so. And that's it. Who's doing that right now? This is huge for you to boost the referrals that you're getting. So out of area, leverage social media. By the way, I will say this. Do you know why some agents are getting like 10 in a row and you're like, they don't even sell? Do you know what I don't want to say scam. That sounds bad. Do you know what they're doing? So there are separate networks or text threads where they'll say, hey, so-and-so is looking at my market. Go ping me. And they'll type into that text thread or that social media post, oh, Joe's the best. Got to use Joe. Because you'll see, you know why that works? Because you'll see like 10 in a row all going to Joe. Okay. So you can work to work the system that way as well. Okay. This is extremely important. And don't worry, I'm landing the plane and we got 10 minutes. Perfect timing. Cycle follow-up. Cycle follow-up. What does this look like? Oh, you went to a conference one year and they said you should be calling your clients quarterly. You went to it and they said you should be calling them monthly. You went to it and they said that you should call them annually. And what have you done since? Nothing. It's okay. We can all admit it. We're all friends here. Okay. You've done nothing. So here's what you can start today. One, birthdays. Well, I don't know what his birthday is. Great. Call and ask. Second, home anniversary. I hope you have that data. You sold the house. Okay. Number three, contests or registrations. If you're not doing monthly online contests, you should start doing it, or at least quarterly contests. Agents give away Yetis. They give away Father's Day is coming up. They give away baseball tickets, or they give away a grill, or whatever it is, right? Obviously, if it's a bigger thing, make it more like a quarterly. But here's the key. Everybody that registered has given you permission to what? To reach out to them, to update your database. They're giving you the new email, their new cell phone number. Wouldn't you agree that every 24 to 36 months, that email is probably defunct, or maybe that cell phone is defunct, right? So make them come back to your website. Wealth Portfolio, I gave you the example of the woman from Denver that's all she does. So you simply calling them to say, hey, would you like an update on your net worth based on your wealth portfolio in your current property or investment property or whatever it is. And the number 5 is charity. I love doing this. Whenever someone buys or sells with us, we actually donate to a local charity that they choose. They choose that right up front. We, at the day of settlement, we have them actually check the box and sign again, because we don't give away client gifts. Our gift to them is we're empowering the local community through a charity donation, and they get to choose the charity donation. Okay. So asking them, one of your calls should be based on the local community and charities. Hey, which charities are you involved with time, money, and energy? I always kind of love this because about half of my clients feel guilty. They're like, oh man, I feel really bad now. I was like, what do you mean? They're like, well, I'm not doing any of that. Boy, I feel bad, right? Which also makes a fun conversation. You should. You're a horrible person. No, I don't say that. Okay. Becoming the source. Well, but it's a fun conversation, because here's what's fun. I'll go to them and I'll say, you know what? You've been such a legend in your community. You've been here for 30 years. How about I call you in another week or another 2 weeks? Because I know you would have thought about a charity. Gives me another chance to follow up with them. Okay. I don't know where this came from, but I love it. This was told to me about 2 years ago. I even Googled it. I tried to find it. I wanted to give credence to somebody. Frank, do you know where it came from? Great. So I created this. It's about a year ago that I created it, and it's fantastic. So here's what it is. Role. So you are a real estate agent. By the way, as you become the source, I want you to think about, this is how the consumer sees you. So the very first way they see you is, okay, you're a real estate agent. You just got your license. Congratulations. You're a real estate agent. You're fulfilling that role. That's not going to get you any business. Agreed? The next step up is, oh, well, he's been a real estate agent for a couple years. Yeah, there's some care and concern. I think if I use him or her, she'll think about it and she'll help me, right? Because she's a friend or I've known that person. The next step up is you're an expert. Here's the challenge with being an expert. Expertise only comes in one of two ways. Experience, which if you're brand new, guess what? You have none. Second one is knowledge. Now, I do not want any hands to raise. I don't want anybody. Yeah, I do want you to feel guilty. Most of you have been resting on your laurels. Most of you are no longer an expert in what the market's doing. Over 10,000 hours. Not 10,000 hours 2 decades ago. 10,000 hours over the last couple of years. What's this market? Where's it going? Are you truly the expert, right? The next is coach. Now, this is fun. When your clients start seeing you as a coach, they're going to come to you and say, hey, I've got these 2 properties. What do you think I should do? Right? When you start getting those phone calls, it's fun because you've gone from the real estate role to care and concern to expert to now a coach, because they trust you fully. Here's all my assets. What should I do? Right? I personally love the final stage, which is dream manager. So I'll have clients that'll call me. You probably have some of this as well, where they'll call you and they'll say, not only here are my real estate holdings, this is all of my money. What should I do? You know you're doing the right job in real estate when you get to that level of dream manager, because they're showing you everything they have and what should they do next. Okay. Which also means you better have a very sharp team of a financial advisor, a will and estate attorney, and all of those people, right? So that you can help them with the dream manager. There's a fantastic book called The Dream Manager by Matthew Kelly. Anybody read that? It's an amazing book. But the short answer is they brought in a financial planner to become, quote unquote, the dream manager because they had too big of an attrition factor. One of my recommendations for this KW office, best thing you could do is bring in a financial advisor and an attorney that would come in and sit down with all of your agents and give them 30 minutes every quarter or 30 minutes once a year or whatever to say, okay, here's your dreams. You want to buy this, this, and this. Here's what you should be doing. What's that? That would be amazing. See, there you go, Bridget. Okay. She's now wondering what it was because she was texting. Yeah. Okay. Can I call out your team leader like that? I've been told I should be more honest. I'm just playing with you. So we'll circle back on that. Virtual seminars. Virtual seminars. Who's done one of these? Have you done a virtual? I'm sure you guys have done it for your agents, right? What's the one that you did that got the most people? What virtual seminar got the most people? Anybody know? Which one? Oh, okay. Oh, well, sorry. I should have prefaced this. That was consumer facing. Have you done virtual seminars that are consumer facing? Like not for your real estate agents, but for the consumers. Okay. To attract new agents. Okay. Let me push you to think outside the box. What if you pulled all your resources just like they did to bring me here today? What if you pulled your resources for someone who could be dynamic towards all of your consumers? And you did it in Zoom or you did it here in the office. And instead of that, it was an estate attorney. It was a probate attorney. It was somebody else who was coming in. So this is the most dry. This was like from an experienced level of entertainment, it was a -10. -10. But I had multiple clients call, text, and email me for a full 30 days after this to say, that's the best thing I ever witnessed, right? Because he talked about trusts and wills and estates and what you should do or not do for free. And we recorded it. So remember, consumer facing, what can bring them in? And it would be fantastic to reach out to the agent community to say, who's a really good estate attorney that could come on for free and share advice, right? You. Mm-hmm.
Over the last year, virtually.
Yeah, absolutely. And homebuyer seminars are fantastic.
Yeah.
But I want to encourage each of you to think about seminars that aren't typical, that aren't being done, right? And if you really want to be that dream manager or coach, wouldn't you agree that you should be doing things on estates and wills and trusts, right? Okay. So you could go to ours. You can see ours, nellisgroup.com, estate-seminar. If you're having trouble sleeping one night and you just want him to talk you to sleep, woo, man. I was the host for it, and it was brutal. Okay. The other one is interesting. I did insurance. And what was fun about the insurance seminar, I don't have my own insurance company. I didn't make any money off of it. But half the people that attended that seminar ended up halving what they were paying. So I had one guy come up to me. He's like, James, that seminar literally saved me over $1,000 a year, right? So when you're talking about these clients becoming your ambassadors and saying, you got to use so-and-so, is by thinking outside the box. The next one we're going to do is interior design. Because we did that one in person like 2 years ago and it was huge. Everybody, because you know, HGTV, everybody wants to see it. We actually feature 2 of our designers and they just share what's hot. This is what everybody's doing. This is what you should do. Then the third one is investing in real estate. So pick other markets. So one of the things that I did years ago in DC, the challenge is what? If you're buying as an investment property, how much money do you have to put down typically on an investor? What percentage of the sales price? 20 to 25. There are some loans that are 15%, but short answer is 20%. So if the home's 500, they got to put down 100,000. Most of your clients probably don't have 300 or 400,000 just sitting around. I had a lot of clients come to me and say, James, I'd love to invest in real estate. I'm great. How much money do you have? And they would say 20,000 or 30,000. And I'd be like, sorry to break it to you, but that's not going to do anything. So I found markets throughout the country where I knew the agent and trusted them and then could roll them into being a true investor in real estate. So I found properties where they could buy for 100,000, which means they only need 20,000 or 25, including closing costs. And they could all of a sudden get what? Passive income coming in. Well, I tell you this, and by the way, the way I structured it, and just think about how you might want to do it. But the way I structured it was, I get the referral fee. I tell them up front, when I connect you, I'll get a referral fee. I've already vetted them. However, I don't take any cream off the top. They're like, what do you mean? Well, there are some agents that put it together as like a group or whatever. And if it's 10% return, they'll take 2% off the top. So they're only getting 8%. So I'll explain to my clients, I don't make any money on that. But what I do know is you're going to be a loyal client. Whenever you buy or sell in Bethany Beach, guess what? You're only going to use me because I taught you how to create passive income, right? Okay. So if you're going to be the source, and if you're truly going to have the right connections, give me an example of someone we haven't talked about yet that's a different industry that you should know, that you could refer your clients to. Give me an example. What's outside of real estate? What might someone ask you about? Hey, you're the local expert. Do you know a good, what? Doctor? Sure. Well, insurance agent? Contractor? Accountant? Mechanic? I get mechanic all the time. You guys get that at all? How about some of these? Painter, designer, hairstylist. Of course, I know all the great ones. Gym owners, places of worship, right? So make sure that you're very specific in who you're connected with. I know agents that have actually created QR codes to where it's their quote unquote private A-list. So someone can click on the QR code, they go right to their website, and it's their private A-list of all the connections and who they should talk to. Back in the day, agents were using that when they were doing like the use my truck for free, and they put all the signage on it. They were doing news reports or market reports and having other people help pay for it based on advertisement. So it doesn't matter how you're leveraging it, but know the experts. Okay. So I would be remiss if I didn't challenge you with this. 12:02, I'm going to go to 12:05. How do you guys feel about that? Doesn't matter. I got the mic. Okay. So I'm going to go 3 more minutes. All right. Here's my challenge to you. Don't tell me what books you've read. Shout out a book that you have not read that's up on the screen. Just shout it out. What's a book you have not read? Oh, wonder. I love that. Everybody at the same time. Great. You first. Energy Bus. Don't hurt me? Can't hurt me. I was like, don't hurt me. Oh, can't hurt me. Never split the difference. How about this side of the room? The One Word. It's fantastic. What another one? Grits. Here's what I tell you. So within our real estate company, the Nellis Group, I require that everybody reads a book. We read a book. Used to be every month. With this crazy market, it's 1 book every 2 months. Everybody has to read it. They have to share what they got out of it. The best book that we've read in the last 2 years is the Book of Joy. It's such a good book that we bought it for all of our top sphere, and we're going to give it out this month to all of them. Okay. It's the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu in a conversation about what joy is. It's incredible. It's a perfect book for right now. All of these books were foundational. If you're newer to business, if you can find it and get it. The Houses book talks about the frame to everything, right? You're laughing because it used to be a requirement for a lot of people. Oh, do they? Oh, okay. Energy Bus is awesome because Bridget may want to come back and fire some people from the office, because if they're an energy vampire, they shouldn't be here, right? Poison in the well. If you're the poison, sorry, I'm not pointing at anybody. Okay. And then the only other thing, I said Fanatical Prospecting before. This was the book I mentioned before about the congratulations script, noble selling. Can't Hurt Me is fantastic for like motivating you to work out. Have you read it before or heard about it? Okay. Anything else I want to say? The One Word was written by one of my spiritual mentors growing up. John Gordon, who wrote The Energy Bus, also co-authored that book. And it's really fun. So instead of, think about this, instead of a New Year's resolution, you pick one word for the entire year to live it out within 6 disciplines: spiritual, physical, emotional, relational, mental, and financial. So no longer is it, I'm going to work out every day. No, it's not that, but that's part of the physical, right? And you're always coming back to that one word so you don't feel defeated when by February 15th, you're no longer what? Going to the gym and everything else, right? Okay. So if you have questions, you can find us on nellisgroup.com. I don't think I have my social media on there. James Nellis on Instagram and all of that. I threw a lot at you. I wanted to leave Q&A, so I left a lot of time for Q&A, almost 60 seconds. So, but here's what I want to do. I want my own pick-me-up, so I want you to look through all of your notes. Please take a look, and I love how diligent all of you were in taking down notes. Those that weren't diligent, shame on you. You just wasted 2 hours. Should I be that Frank? Yeah. Okay. I shouldn't be that Frank? Oh, I should. Well, you always have a Frank, so I'll be someone else. So here's what I want you to do. Look back through, circle 3 things. 3 things you learned that you'll implement this next month. 3 things you learned today, whether it was a script, whether it was a tool, whether it was a, you know what? I'm not keeping them accountable. Circle those 3 things. And then we're going to leave with what we consider the top 10 for the room. Circle those 3 things. Do we have any? And then if you're on Zoom, go ahead and type it in the chat panel. And if we see the chat panel pop up, we'll highlight that so we can share that as well. Okay, I'll give you 20 more seconds to circle or to highlight. Sure. That's Hank Trisler, Trisler. It should be a yellow cover on the book. Oh, I didn't give you this. Anybody use Blinkist? B-L-I-N-K, like you're blinking, I-S-T, Blinkist? If not, it's worth it. It's like $80 for the year, and it takes business books and put them into like Cliff Notes. They call them blinks. So like when I was driving here this morning, I listened to 12-Week Year again, okay, which is also a great book. But like what's fun about that is you can get through a book in 15 minutes or less. And yes, I read all of those books that I showed you. I didn't blink them. But it's a great opportunity to find out, should I spend 20 bucks on that book or not, right? Think about how many books where you're like, ooh, wasn't worth that $25, right? Good. Okay, let's feed me. What do we got? We'll start with this side of the room.
Expired leads going to 6 months.
Awesome. Expires going back 6 months, 12 months to really find the jewels there. Good. Awesome. Go to temp off for those communities where your buyers want to buy that have lost out. Good. Next table. Disrupt, anchor, ask. I want you to go back and look at everything that you say. By the way, if you've said it more than once, guess what? It's a script. It just may not be a good one. Okay. So go back and see, am I saying the right things? Do I sound like everybody else? Anyone else from this side? They're still circling. Okay, go ahead. What? Embrace the awkward. Yeah, love that. Oh, I have a whole nother thing where I teach the 10 seconds to success. If you really want to embrace the awkward, Frank remembers this. If you really want to embrace the awkward, ask a listing agent or a buyer agent a question, and then don't say anything and count to 10 in your mind, not out loud. 1, 2. Why are you counting? This is very weird. In your mind, count to 10. Here's what I will tell you. The majority of agents cannot survive those 10 seconds. By 5 seconds, they're going to fill in the gap and start telling you information they should never tell you. Okay. So ask the question and then just shut up. Okay. Good. Anyone else from middle tables? April. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Good. I'm glad somebody caught that. The AV department for the local schools. I would do the private where you want to get in with that. And then I also do the public that's in your local market for sure. Good. Anything else in the middle? Google Screen. You're kicking yourself because you don't already have it, aren't you? Yeah, Google Screen. But are you using it? Are you paying for it? Are they clicking through? And are you creating listings from it? Oh, yes. Oh, I love that you caught that. Assemble the intangibles forward facing to the client where they see the true win. You're different than all the other agents, and here's why. Good. How about this side? Oh, God. Yeah, if you're doing open houses and you're not using QR codes, you're wasting your time. And the nice thing is everyone's been trained to use the QR codes now. Good. 2 more. What do we got? Networking, using the Meetup. Absolutely. And you may have to, let me preface this, instead of 4, you may have to join 10 groups because your ultimate goal will be attend 1 thing a week. So 4 meetings in a month, 48 in a year. I guarantee you, you'll expand your SOI and you'll get business from it. Good. Last one. What do we got? Go ahead. One more time. Oh, yes. Lender letter. If you're competing, have the lender show, because remember, we all got really good, right? They're offering 505. Get it to me for 505. And you guys are good at that. Instead, blow it out of the water. So if this is the aggressive to reserve, show that they can do 850, show that they can do $1 million, whatever the number is. Okay. Anything else that we missed? Online? Wonderful. They're still chatting away. Can you see all the chats? Unbelievable. They truly zoned in today. I want to thank you for your time, for the opportunity. We are in the DMV. This is selfish. I came to speak here because what do I want from everybody? Referrals, referrals. We cover the DMV. Here's our zones. So you don't forget, there's my website, nellisgroup.com. Feel free to go there, see what we have, steal whatever we're using, right? If you have questions, let me know. I sent you some URLs earlier in the slides that you could start leveraging today, right? So thank you for your time and wish you the best.